The Red Bull driver saga is a never-ending TV show of drama. Between the Perez sacking, the Lawson sacking, and maybe now the Yuki sacking, Red Bull is never short of driver dilemmas. And with the second Red Bull seat such a mess, and youngsters like Arvid Lindblad on the rise, who's actually going to be in the Red Bull and RB seats come 2026? For Red Bull, rumors have been swirling the past few weeks, and it looks like Hadjar is going to be at Red Bull next year. He's been the best performing non-Verstappen Red Bull driver by a country mile, and it's no surprise with all of these great performances that he's starting to be linked to that Red Bull seat given Yuki's struggles this year. After that opening weekend that he had in Australia, it's hard to believe the season that Isaac Hadjar has had. I don't think really anybody expected such performances out of him. I certainly did not. I wasn't super familiar with him coming into the year, and from what I heard he wasn't necessarily the fastest or consistent or emotionally even driver as maybe he needed or wanted to be. Regardless though of all these preconceived notions, he's showing that he deserves a shot at Red Bull. Whether that helps his career or it even makes sense for Red Bull is another question. If Hadjar does end up getting the seat, it would be relatively harsh on Yuki, but Yuki has actually been pretty appalling at times this year, so you can see why it does make sense for them to switch it out. You can also argue though that it does make sense to keep Yuki and keep some consistency and see if Yuki can settle in with another year alongside Max Verstappen, especially going into a new rule set in 2026. The second seat at Red Bull is always so turbulent, and it certainly can't be helping the drivers or the team by any stretch. Yuki did finally end up having a really strong weekend at Baku, but he does need to keep showing that consistently week in and week out to make the decision truly tricky for Red Bull. For better or for worse, Hadjar does look to be like he's going to be in the Red Bull next year, unless Yuki manages to maintain similar or better performances than what he did in Baku. I think the bigger question will be how some of the other drivers at like RB plays out, because we know that Max Verstappen is certainly locked in there for next year. So that brings us to the RB drivers and how it probably is going to get shaken up once again. I think with the two seats, one of them is a bit of a toss-up and the other seat might be more of a lock. I have a hard time believing that the Red Bull junior driver Arvid Lindblad is not going to be at RB next year. He's Red Bull's next protege after all. He's a little outside fighting for the title in F2 right now, but he's performing decently. He won a sprint earlier in the year, and he just recently won his first feature race. He showed strong defensive moves, tire management, and some great overtakes. One of the reasons that I can see them promoting Arvid Lindblad up into the Red Bull seat next year is because Max Verstappen's future is always in doubt in the long term, and it's important for Red Bull to have the next in line, and they clearly believe that Arvid Lindblad could be that next in line. As for the other RB seat, I think it's a real toss-up between Lawson or Yuki, since I do feel that Hadjar is going to be at Red Bull next year. Starting with Yuki, he really outperformed Lawson at RB. He didn't completely destroy him, but he generally had the upper hand. And if we're going to do some F1 math at Red Bull, Yuki's Red Bull stint hasn't been particularly good, but he has done a better job than Lawson's two races that he had at Red Bull. I in the F1 community have talked about Yuki's performances enough, and that enough is to show why he's going to be under some serious pressure for keeping his seat in 2026. But something else that is going against Yuki is that he's also losing the Honda connection when Honda joins with Aston Martin next year. I think one of the biggest reasons that Yuki was kept in the Red Bull fold for so long was because of that Honda connection. Red Bull really never had the faith in Yuki to promote him until they basically had to after the Perez situation. Without Honda, I think Red Bull could have dropped him a long time ago, and I think that's very concerning for Yuki's future now. Even if Yuki doesn't have that Honda backing anymore, I think he would still be a great benchmark if they are going to put Arvid Lindblad alongside him at RB. Yuki's been paired with several decent F1 drivers like Pierre Gasly and has shown himself capable and reliable. Comparing Lindblad to Yuki could really show what Lindblad is really about. As for Lawson, I feel like he's had a really crazy season. He started out at Red Bull for the first two races and was absolutely destroyed. He was knocked down to the RBC, and I felt like it took him some serious time to regain his confidence and composure. But since then, he's been on a bit of a resurgence, particularly with his best ever result in Baku. While these recent performances are making Lawson a more interesting prospect again, I think the biggest mark against Lawson retaining any type of Red Bull seat is that he's never going to make it back to the Red Bull main team. There's no way they're going to re-promote him after dropping him after only 2 races, regardless of how well he's performing. Red Bull would never swallow their pride and give it a second shot. If that's the case, then there's really no reason to keep Lawson, as harsh as that is, since they'll want to bring in some new talent in the form of youngsters like Arvid Lindblad. It also doesn't help Lawson that he doesn't necessarily have some major sponsors or companies backing him like Honda was backing Yuki. Lawson's whole F1 career has kind of been a bit harsh on him, and dropping him based on his recent performances would certainly be harsh again, but Red Bull has been known to make decisions based on any type of feelings. So if I'm going to predict the Red Bull and RB seats for 2026, at Red Bull, I have to go with Verstappen, of course, and then Isaac Hadjar alongside him. At RB, I'm going to go with Yuki and Arvid Lindblad. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend definitely made things more complicated for Red Bull, given Yuki and Lawson had their respective best performances of the year so far, and it could keep getting even more complicated for Red Bull, depending on how those drivers do the remainder of the year. But ultimately, I think Red Bull know what they want to do. It's just more of a matter of time than anything. Red Bull aren't exactly the patient type, so it's tough to see them giving Yuki another shot, even if maybe that's the best move for Yuki and for the team. Dropping Lawson would certainly be harsh, as his whole F1 career kind of has been, but ultimately if Red Bull is never going to re-promote him to the main team, then they might as well bring in the next crop of drivers. As for Hadjar in the Red Bull, it's almost certainly career suicide, like it's been for just about every teammate Verstappen has had at Red Bull. But if you're Lawson, you have to take that opportunity with both hands and try to make the most of it if the opportunity does present itself. He can't turn that seat down out of fear of failure or fear of what has happened with some of Verstappen's teammates in the past. For Lindblad, if he is the next star that Red Bull are looking for, I hope they actually give him some time in the second team, maybe even a full 2 years to really develop and not throw him to the wolves alongside Max Verstappen. The bottom line is that the Red Bull driver saga continues on, and I think that drama and driver dilemma is just going to continue in 2026, because I think Verstappen and Hadjar will be at the Red Bull team, and they're going to switch out Yuki and have Lindblad in the RB team as well. So let me know down in the comments below what you think of the driver situation at Red Bull. Who do you think are going to be in those 4 seats in 2026? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. If you liked the video, give it a like and hit that subscribe button to see more F1 related content, and I'll see you all in the next one.